You're listening to Best Forevers, a podcast for kindred spirits. A podcast that encourages you to love more on your friends and to further consider the issues that plague friendships. I'm Alysa Lucas, and this is a sigh of joy for the love of friendship, my friends. I just saw Olivia Wilde's witty and compassionate quote-unquote coming-of-age movie about best friends Amy and Molly, and I'm too excited to do anything but gush about this movie, Booksmart, and friendship. So that's what we're going to talk about today. First, I'm going to talk a little bit about the movie, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about friendships from the movie, and then I'll end with talking about why we need more movies like Booksmart. So let's get this a Booksmart friendship party started. Okay, so as you might imagine, if I'm going to talk about the movie, you haven't seen it yet. First off, why haven't you seen it yet? Go do it immediately. Like, turn this off, go see it, come back, turn this back on and listen. But Booksmart, because I'm talking about it, there are going to be spoilers, as you might imagine. So if you're planning to see the movie in the next couple of days, then you might want to pause. I think that was enough time to do so. Okay, so Amy and Molly are overachiever best friends with dreams larger than high school dreams. And so it's time to valedictorian that graduation and move off to Yale, making tampons in Botswana. Am I right? That's exactly what the end of my high school experience was like. The good news is the two support each other and have pushed each other to achieve their goals. But the bad news is apparently they have done nothing but study in their time in high school, and their peers have pinned them as those who can only study and have zero fun. However, the two friends that disagree and say they're lots of fun, they have fun together, and you get that immediately in how they vibe together, and the chemistry between the friends is amazing among the actresses, and so there is a whole lot to love with their friendship. So that's good news, but they haven't really spread their love around with other people. So one might think, shouldn't we have dreams outside of academics in our professional career? I mean, if you travel back to middle school, high school time, didn't you have dreams about crushes? Like, who was the person that you crushed on, right? Do you get that feeling right back of what it's like to be in like 10th grade and have a crush on someone? Or, I think of the movie Can't Hardly Wait, where he had a crush on a character for the whole 4 years he was in high school and he was about to graduate, and he never went and talked to her. And so it's like we have these other dreams, we have these other things that we like to do, and sometimes we don't do it. Sometimes we dream about being invited to parties and we just accept the fact that we're not. Sometimes we dream about being included, and when we find that we're not included with some people, we go and find where we might be included elsewhere, because it's a basic human need, is to feel accepted and understood by others, especially your peers. And going back to middle school or high school, or if you're in one of those levels of education now, you know what it feels like to want to be a part of the group, or trying to find your people. Who are your people? When were you able to find them? Was it, hey, my parents and your parents lived next door to each other, and so we became friends since birth? Did you find your people in elementary school, middle school, high school, college, outside of college? Are you still looking for them? So I think this is a basic human experience or need or want that we have in life, and it is no doubt that, or it's not a surprise that they would want to have some other experiences. But specific Molly is determined her and her best friend Amy will have fun before they graduate. Problem is, they graduate tomorrow. So they have one night to make up for perhaps everything they've ever missed. And what it becomes is the journey of that night and creating life-lasting memories, having that realization of what it's like to have this friendship, the good and the bad, the things that we might end up regretting that we never did, and who we truly are, finding out who that person is, leading out into the world beyond high school. So in terms of the movie, that's my description. The trailer is in my show notes. You can quickly Google it, YouTube it, etc., to see what it's about and get more of a description. But that's how I would describe this movie, that these two girls are best friends. They're ready to graduate at the top of their class and go on, but maybe they've missed out on fun, especially when they realize that a whole lot of other people in their school are going to similar schools or having similar experiences in life, and they had fun. So I think in some ways the movie gets at the myth of a work-life balance, right? That these girls worked, but they didn't live, right? And isn't that what we're all trying to do? Like, get our job, get the paycheck, do all that kind of stuff, and then be able to have fun. So kind of like a work hard, play hard. And sometimes we work hard. Or we play hard, and then we're real sad at our paychecks or what we're able to accomplish at work. Or, when you play hard, you might end up at work with a hangover or something. And it doesn't necessarily mean it's an alcohol hangover. It could be a sugar hangover. Just sometimes don't you feel like when you go on a trip, like a vacation, you need a vacation from your vacation? I think sometimes that happens when you play too much, right? And so I think that we all have those experiences where we're all looking in terms of how to have that balance. And I once went to a conference and there was a session about work-life balance. And I remember specifically one of the people on the panel saying, work-life balance is a myth. It's about work-life management. So it's nothing that we can ever have truly balanced, but it's something that we continuously try to manage. And I think that the two primary folks in this movie, Amy and Molly, what we see is that they're not balanced and they're not managing. They've only done work and they've done it together, and that has been a good experience for them. But maybe they should try something else. And I think for Molly, it's about proving herself to the rest of her peers, where I don't think Amy is as concerned about that, but she'll do whatever she can for her friend. And so before I go on and talk about the friendships in the movie, I just want to give a major shout out to Olivia Wilde. You go, girl. I want more immediately. This was her directing debut, and it was amazing from beginning to end. It was like she thought of everything for this movie in the position that she was in, including with having 4 amazing writers, Sarah Haskins, Susanna Fogel, Catherine Silberman, and Emily Halpern. And I just thought when I was listening to the dialogue and listening to the story and watching the movie that I was like, to these writers, I would say, get out of my 17-year-old head. Like, for real. It was witty and compassionate and cringeworthy in all the right ways. And that's one of the things that I love about movies about young adulthood, about middle school and high school, is when the movies can truly capture that experience. And even if you're not in that experience now, like, as a 40-year-old, I can go in and be like, that reminds me of high school. That is a movie that can surpass. It doesn't matter your age. If you can recognize the experiences they're having, you might have had a similar experience when you were in middle school, high school, right? And so I just love that about it. So it's not cringeworthy like, oh, it's bad. It's just like those experiences you have when you're a teenager. It's like, oh, why did I do that? Or, oh, I was stupid. Why did I think that was going to happen? And just like really thoughtful in the dialogue and just really full of heart. And I cried throughout the movie because I love friendship so much, and I know that has a lot to do with the directing and the writing, but also the casting. So Caitlin Dever as Amy and Beanie Feldstein as Molly, these are the best friends we all want and need. And their relationship is just amazing. I think it's the thing that people hope to find. And even if in this story they're no longer friends past high school, it was a friendship of beauty that we can all appreciate and celebrate. It was a wonderful friendship. And then finally, I would say for the music, I was like, why is this the soundtrack of the high school life I wanted? I was like, I felt like it captured the emotion in each scene and that life of a high school student, and that those moments of change that you're experiencing as you graduate from high school and you move on, and the changes that you experience in life, I think they really captured it well. So overall, the movie was absolutely delightful and worth the time. And if you have to travel to the theater, it's worth the travel, the money, and so much more. I will definitely be going to see it again, and I sure hope you will join me in the theater. Well, I mean, we might live in different states and countries, but I hope we can go to the movie theater together in spirit. And so if you've seen Booksmart you're planning to. I want to know what you think about it. Tell me your experience. What did you respond to? What sort of things do you think that they were missing? I am sort of in the love fest session of it all, and maybe as I process it, things will change, but I still want to hear what you think. And so you can email me at bestforeverspod@gmail.com. You can at me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, all at bestforeverspod. I want to know everything. But of course, we're not just going to talk about the movie. We've got to talk about the friendship more. And so there's two primary focuses when thinking about friendship in the movie Booksmart. So we certainly focus on the friendship of Amy and Molly as they start the morning of the last day of school through their night of fun to graduation and saying goodbye in the end. So in that way, it has that sense of super bad, how things are changing and having that one last night of fun, if you will. And so I know a lot of people might say this is super bad with girls, and I would say it has that similarity, but the experiences, I think, and how they're captured, I think that if you are, for example, a teenage girl or not, I think that different movies can capture different experiences, and I think Booksmart was able to do that with a little bit more of the Booksmarts, but that might also have been the goal, right? So as I say, I found myself crying several times in the movie, and it might not have been specifically emotional at that time, but for me, it's about seeing friendship at front and center in the movie, and looking at friendships that people often are looking for or hoping for in their lifetime. And many people have these friendships, and some people may never have it, but just to be able to see friendship, the beauty of friendship, the spirit of friendship on a screen is on the big silver screen is something that, gets me emotional. So let me talk about Amy and Molly first, and then I'll go into some of the other friendships that we see in the movie. So Amy and Molly have dreams and goals that they've shared together, right? And they help each other achieve those goals. And, it's not just these goals, because I think that's sort of the idea here is that because they're book smart, they spend all this time studying, and they talk about making this active choice that we're going to focus on school together and not focus on fun because we want to get into these really great schools. But one of the things that you see is, though, they have fun together, and they are the best hype women I've ever seen. So you can see that they do have that study, but they have that love and respect and a built relationship together that they've had for years, because you can see that Amy drives Molly to school every single day ever since, I'm sure she turned 16. I don't think she's driving her when she was 11, but ever since then that created this bond and time together in the car and the experiences they have. And so one of the things that you can see, the hype woman situation I'm talking about, is when the very first scene and they're leaving for the day, and they don't just leave. It's like they take a moment and appreciate each other, what the other is wearing, to let them know they're beautiful. And it's like this back and forth of, these, they're building off these witty comments to praise and compliment each other, and they go back and forth. And most often it keeps going until one of them or someone else notes that it's been going on too long. And I think Amy even goes, "Are we even going to go to school today?" They're like, "No." And it's not only this back and forth of praising and complimenting and supporting and loving that I just appreciate. It's a unique way to greet people. And I think you can see those differences and those sort of inside jokes and bonding and things that friends have based on how they greet each other. So in this case, they praise each other. And in this scene, they're dancing, even though there appears to be no music. But it's something that they do every morning or when they do things together. You can see that friends have these bonds. Like, so do you have a special handshake? Is there a specific way you greet your friends or you say goodbye to them? And maybe you don't have like a specific greeting or goodbye, but maybe you have nicknames or other code words or other things that you do that makes your friendship unique. And I think that is really cool to see, that everyone has their own unique ways of being friends, of doing friendship. And I would love to hear about all those as well. Do you have a greeting? Do you have a nickname? Do you have unique things that you created that you do in your friendship that makes your friendship yours? I love that stuff. I want to hear about it all. Again, bestforeverspod@gmail.com or at me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at bestforeverspod. I love to hear all that. And for Amy and Molly, one of their things is the hype part. So it's trying to leave for the day, getting ready for the party, when they come out in their outfits and talking about how each other is beautiful, or after, surviving what potentially might have been a kidnapping or attack, how they hype each other about how good they were in that situation, even though they weren't really that good in that situation, getting actual cool clothes and dress for the party. It's just this love fest of eloquent and increasingly hilarious ways in which to support, love, and compliment each other. And that was one of the things that really stood out for me, that you could see throughout the movie, the things they did, it was their own, and no one else did that. Another thing that really sticks out about their friendship is that Molly will sort of indicate that she's aware of how things work, and that, she speaks badly about herself, even though she's sort of talking about how the world works, that wouldn't happen, that relationship wouldn't happen, or this thing wouldn't happen because I'm like this, or I look like this. And Amy smacks her in the face. And I'm not saying I condone putting hands on each other. I mean, obviously we need consent. And that is not really a effective or competent way in which to communicate with other people. But the point was this: she smacks her friends and says, "Don't you talk about my best friend in that way ever again." And so in a way, it's like Amy is projecting what you might do if someone was talking badly about your friend. So maybe a frenemy or an enemy or someone else who's just talking poorly, and you're like, "You will not talk about my friend, and I'm going to defend them to the death," and, so on and so forth. And it's like, we do that, right? Like with friends, we are going to stick up for them. We're loyal. We're going to defend them. But what happens is when it's your own friend who's talking badly about themselves. And so I think that was the point of it all, that no, you're not going to talk badly about my friend because you are the strongest person I know. You're this, you're this, you're this. And again, this other way of complimenting and supporting and providing love. And I appreciate this. Again, I don't condone violence, but I also think that the fact that they did it so much within a day's time, because that's where the movie focuses, that it is something that I appreciate and I think is positive, because no matter what happens to those friends, if something were to happen on that night, or the fact that they have to say goodbye to each other, they will know exactly how the other feels about them. So they are constantly telling them that they love them and what they think of them in positive ways, and letting them know that there's someone in this world who cares about them, loves them, values them, that this relationship is important to them. And I think sometimes we get so comfortable and we get so familiar that we often forget to do those things. Like, oh, I'll talk to that person the next day. I don't got time to send a text back. Or, they know what I mean. I don't have to say it. They know that I love them. But when you actually say those things, you can be confident in that you will never regret them not knowing how you feel about them. And that is something that I think we can all learn a lesson from, right? That it's constantly going, we don't know what this world is like. Life is unpredictable. We don't know what's going to happen. But no matter what happens, my friend is always going to know exactly how I feel about them, that I love them, they are my best friend, and that's the way it is. And we just don't do enough of that. And speaking of things that make our friendships unique, that they have another sort of inside joke that really indicates like how the friendship is going to work. And so when they are doing something and they want to get it done and the other friend appears not to want to do it, it is a request that they do it without questions, and the code word is Malala. This is the inside joke. It's an inspirational woman that at any means, no questions asked, we're going to do this thing. And I think what we see in that movie is that it's used. They get one Malala a year to be like, we're doing this thing. You are 100% supporting me in this thing. Let's go do this. No regrets, no questions. Let's go. And I think that we start to discover is that when Molly uses Malala, the no questions asked, the thing happens. When Amy tries to invoke Malala, there is pushback from Molly. And I think that you start to discover that we have these things that we create. It indicates how the friendship might operate. They might be expectations, rules, boundaries, things of that nature that we create through these sort of code words and secret jokes and greetings and all those sorts of things. And that you can really see in the communication of the friends if it works both ways. And a friendship is supposed to work both ways. Well, we see that this turns into a conflict between Amy and Molly, the best friends. And it reminds us that our friends may support us, but they can also hold us back. That might be in personality traits. So in the movie, Molly is controlling and Amy is meek. And so what you see is that Molly is often pushing Amy around. And I think Amy uses the word bully. You bully me. And Molly is like, well, you make decisions for nothing. You can never make a decision. And here's the thing. Maybe Amy can never make a decision because Molly's always bullying her into things, or that Molly has had to become a little bit more aggressive in how she goes about things because Amy never makes a decision. And so we can create these sort of people out of our friends, right? And that might be Molly's personality. She is controlling, right? But she might also become more controlling because of that situation, because of that relationship. And maybe Amy is timid and meek, but maybe being in that friendship has exasperated that timidness, right? And so sometimes it is our friends. So if she is timid, it is her friend that's pushing her outside her comfort zone. But maybe she'd be able to get outside of that comfort zone if they didn't have such restrictions on their friendship. That maybe the Malala rule doesn't work because Molly wants to be in control and Amy doesn't. And so when Amy does try to take control, it's not something that Molly is used to. And then there's pushback, and that you start to see that, oh gosh, Amy's going to be like, I don't like being controlled. I don't like this. And then you start to see this conflict. And I think that we need to be reminded that the things that we do in our friendships, we can create the situations ourselves, that it's not always the other person, right? You have two individuals. You might have someone who's controlling and you have someone who is meek. Well, then you bring the two together and then they're in that relationship uniquely. What's it like to have two controlling friends in one friendship? What is a friendship like when there's two people who are meek, or any other combination of personalities? That we come in bringing our good and our bad, but then it sort of meshes together into one friendship. So I think that this particular scene and the conflict really does indicate that sometimes we get too familiar in our friendships. We get too comfortable in sort of how we set things up, and that we might only be one thing, controlling or meek. And that in those ways, we can hold our friends back because we are bullying them or we're not making our own decisions. But it might not necessarily be toxic. Think about it this way. They're teenagers. They are in high school. And so they're discovering who they are, right? You know, they're trying to figure out their personality and the things that they like to do and the goals that they have and how they fit into this world, how they fit into the high school, how they fit into the friendship. And so not everything might be toxic. It can be. And if it is, then I say, get out, you know, like the best that you can. And sometimes we just need more assistance of how we back out of situations that are toxic. And so I can provide some advice on how to do that for a future episode. And so I do want to recognize there are some situations we should not be in. And if we can get out of it, or we can cut that person out of our life, that's great. But in a lot of ways, it's not toxic. They're helping us grow. And I think in the conflict that Molly and Amy had, that they discovered the complexity of themselves individually. I am a controlling person. That's an awareness that Molly comes to. She is more complex other than being in this friendship. She becomes who Molly is, right? And then you can see, you know, the complexity of Amy, and that she is actually not always timid, that she can take control in situations she might have not felt like she had the opportunity to do so. And so in some ways, it's growing and learning and discovering and recognizing who we are and what we bring and how we might bring bad stuff, how we might bring good stuff, and how we can operate in a relationship with someone else. And I think it's all good things to learn about communications and relationships. And so although they have a major conflict, and I thought it was pretty rude that many of the people around them were recording it, because, you know, when we have our bottom moments with our friends, so to speak, when we have these conflicts, the last thing we want to do is have other people see it. We might not want to relive it. That doesn't mean we don't own up to it. We don't move beyond it. But it seems like it's hard. It can be hard to move past those moments if people are constantly asking about it or talking about it or thinking they know exactly what happened or what happened in the aftermath when they don't. And I think in a lot of cases that documentation isn't helpful. It can make it a more toxic situation. And so if you see people fighting, unless it's, and I don't mean physically fighting, because obviously like that can be a problem, or if you see people who are problematic, and I've seen that before when I've been on vacation or something like that, seeing the way someone talks to someone else and picking up on their relationship and being concerned about it. But there's another thing in like recording it, and then where do you post it? How do you use it? Those are all important questions, I think. But what we move into is that they really have their moments of realizing, Molly realizes that she needs to let go, and that some of the things that she does places people into boxes, and that she's incorrect in the boxes that she places them, including perhaps Amy as being timid and meek. And you see Amy come to her own sort of growth of realizing that she is much more courageous and brave and can do things for herself that she might not have done so in the past because of her friendship. And so the two come together. An apology comes from Molly. And then in response, Amy has an apology. And what I love about it is it's not just like I'm going to say sorry. It's here's I'm sorry and why. And it's not just sorry that we're in the situation. I'm sorry for the role I played in the situation, and here's what we can do from it. And it felt so authentic and sincere, and in true fashion became a ride or die moment where they had to get to graduation 19 minutes away in 7 minutes. And there is a brand new, full support, like, let's do it. Let's get in this car. Let's get to graduation in 7 minutes. Everyone else be damned, apparently. And then you see in sort of the end of the movie how an apology and a realization continues a strength in the friendship as they support each other and live in the moments and, appreciate the crushes and support each other through those things. Like that, you're just there for the journey. Part of that journey is together, and part of it is there to have it with you and to share it with you. So this is the time where maybe it was emotionally appropriate to cry, and I did. And so I wanted to say thank you to the filmmakers for showcasing how hard it is to say goodbye to our friends. And I think that a lot of times we assume it's hard to say goodbye to family or romantic partners, and that friends, it's like, all right, check you later, catch you on the flip side, and it's like, that's that. And instead, we see this really sort of long scene of like, all right, goodbye. Yeah, well, yeah. Oh, get your bag there. Oh, see you later. Like this really awkward of, have they ever had to say goodbye before? Like, is this the first time that they're saying goodbye in this friendship, but also saying goodbye to someone who's really important to them? And I think the filmmakers really captured that difficulty in how do you do it? Do you wait to break down after? Do you cry together? Do you hug? What is the way to say goodbye? And there's no one right way, but what are some ways in which we can say goodbye to people and show that this goodbye means a lot? And so one of the things I would say is that this scene really spoke to me because of the music that was played in the background. It was a love song, and I think it showcased that we can have first loves and friendship, and that doesn't mean they won't be friends forever. Maybe they will, maybe they won't, but that this friendship meant a lot, and that it can be really hard to say goodbye to your first friend love. And in some cases, it can be harder to say goodbye than other relationships, friends, family, or, the romantic partners or whoever else. And I just love it because sometimes we just need every goddamn second we can with our friends before we part ways, and that's how we say goodbye. That when it's over, it can be over, but we need to have that time in which to properly say goodbye in whatever case it might be. And the movie coming together at the end comes from Molly's valedictorian speech when she says that high school is over, and she's looking out at her best friend, and she goes, "It might be over, but it was perfect." And just life is about these people, our lives together, holding on to these memories, but knowing and appreciating what it was, because it might not be the same again. And Molly also has these moments of sort of speaking to the other people at the school and saying that how they were able to see each other in this moment and to go be successful, that we're awesome, we're good people. And she says, quote, "Don't let college fuck it up." And I mean, her valedictorian speech was brief and to the point and just full of so much right, like exactly how people feel in those moments. And I just loved this as the end because it was, we need every second together. It's over, but it was perfect. We need to think about and be respectful of change. If the friendship continues, how we're going to work on it. But until then, let's go get some fucking pancakes. And what a perfect end. And I don't use the word perfect a lot because I think it's bullshit. But I do think that for what this movie was about and for friendship, they nailed it. They absolutely nailed that. Friends, we love our friends. It's hard to say goodbye. We don't want to say goodbye. We want to have all the time we can. We can make as many memories as we can because we don't know what the future might hold. And that if it's a friendship that's going to carry on, we're going to work at it. And if not, then let's love this friendship for what it was, because it was amazing. It was perfect. And yeah, you guys, I loved it. You need to go see this movie. Or I hope you're all like, yes, at home if you've, you're listening now and you've seen the movie, that you get what I'm trying to say here. That is just, it was what we need to see for friendships. And besides their main friendship, we do see these other cast of characters. So you have the usual high school suspects, so to speak. And it's not so usual, right? I really feel like the movie breathed into life those tired high school stereotypes in ways that I wasn't ready for, but only hope for now in movies. And so here are some of the characters in the movie. And then I have some thoughts about it. So we meet Jared, the rich kid who tries way too hard to make friends and tries to buy people's affection. And so truly he doesn't have friends because in a lot of ways he's trying too hard. And that's something that I have observed. And we've probably all been there before because we're just trying to make friends, and making friends is hard. And this is some of the cringeworthy moments, but also I think some of the most meaningful moments is when Jared is on screen, because it really speaks to me that we're all looking for friends, and some of us have an easier time doing it than others. And so if we are more mindful of including people, and it doesn't mean we have to be best friends, but that we can be friendly with them. We have Gigi, the 1%, who actually, as Jared describes it, has a desperately sad life, but is the most loyal person you'll ever meet in your life. And she'll defend you to anyone. And so I think that people wonder why the two are friends. And what he's saying is it looks like Gigi is keeping him around for what she needs. And actually, he's friends with her because she's loyal and he's looking for friends. And so the two work well together. We have Triple A, who we learn at the very end. Her name is Annabelle, but she's not ready to be called that. She is a sex-positive girl who's going to Yale, and most people know her as Triple A because she picks up boys from high school and services them on the side of the road. And that's what we learn at the beginning, and that is how she is viewed by many people at the school. And Molly in particular doesn't like her because of that, or has a lot to say about her. But Amy never says anything badly about her, and we discover that she did do those things, but it's because she wants to enjoy sex too. And why would you do it at home when your dad can walk in on it versus in a car? And that just because she's had sex doesn't mean that she doesn't care about other things and isn't smart enough to go to Yale. And so I think this character in particular really, and if not all of them, that we sort of box people into one box and don't see people in complex and complicated ways. Nick is the popular guy who has all the fun and appears to only be there for fun, but can also get into Georgetown. He is Molly's crush. Ryan, she's the popular girl. It seems like, I don't know if she's popular in the standards that we might see Nick as a jock, for example, but Ryan, she's skateboarding around. She knows everyone. She always has a smile on her face. She seems like a lot of fun. She is inclusive. This is Amy's crush. And, Amy just says she always has a smile on her face and she looks like she'd be a lot of fun to spend time with. And Molly gets slightly offended, like, we're fun. And Amy's like, yeah, but there'd be other fun things included. So thinking about romantic relationships as well. And it's not until later that Amy discovers that Molly has had a crush on Nick. We have Hope, the mean girl, and not like a Regina George mean girl. She's not the most popular girl. In fact, people don't seem to care for her because she is so mean. But she tries to pass it off as she's just blunt and harsh and is telling the truth. And Amy says she's just mean and fronts it as the truth and that she's probably just going to peak in high school. And I like this particular conversation because I do think that people do use the word truth to defend what they're saying. And I think that we need to remember that because we have an opinion does not make it fact. And so people are like, people just can't handle my truth. And it's like, yeah, but you're saying something that's actually an opinion, right? You'll see it like when people vague book on Facebook about, this thing or that thing. And it's, they can't handle when I tell them the truth about what they're like. And I was like, well, is it an opinion or is it actually fact? And in this particular case, Hope is using her opinion and trying to come across as she's trying to help people and tell them the truth. But most people don't like that much honesty or that much meanness. Like, kindness is free, Hope. Give us some hope about being kind. I mean, geez. We have Theo, who appears to be, and I say appears to be because it's not entirely clear, but he appears to be on drugs. He's dumb. He's high. He could care less about school. But actually, he's coding at Google next year. It's like, what? Then you have Tanner is funny, and class clown, a jock who will play on a scholarship at Stanford the following year. And then you have George and Alan, the theater kids who just take it to the next level with performance in the classroom and their parties that they host and the murder mysteries and so on and so forth, and just the spirit they infuse into the classroom. And so I think that we have the jocks, we have the pretty girls, we have the popular people, we have the theater folks, we have all of that, but it's not what you would typically think. These are all, if you will, non-stereotypes, right? One thing that really stuck out to me is that everyone in the school is super successful, right? Like that the stereotype that we're going to get from high school movies and that we've seen is that there's no way that the high kid is going to be coding at Google. Like, there's no way. Or at least that's what stereotypes tell us. And truly, it seems like all these people are living their best lives. But they're at a school where you can't talk about what college you got into because you might hurt other people's feelings. And so maybe that comes from that participation trophy sort of atmosphere that students might be in middle school and high school. But what happens is if people don't know where people are going to school or what they're interested in and so on and so forth, what happens is that everyone uses rumors, gossip, and other nonverbal cues to explain, understand, and make predictions about other people. So this seems like a way that actually increases use of stereotypes. It increases misunderstandings, and no one in the school truly knows one another. They don't know their peers. They don't understand what they're about, who they are, and they're only using the basic information like the fact that her nickname is AAA because she service guys in their car. Right? That's the nickname she has. That's the only information people use. And I think we do that all the time. We get one piece of information and then we make a judgment about that person as if there isn't 50 other parts of who they are as a person. And so, for example, Jared, the rich kid who tries to buy everyone's affection, is really into airplanes and musicals. He wants to design airplanes. He wants to take that money and he wants to fund musicals. No revivals, people. We deserve better, according to Jared. I mean, he's not wrong. So he says that he tells Molly he's so excited to go to college so he can meet people who are into the same weird shit he's into. And isn't that what life is about, is finding our people who are in the same weird shit we're into? But I think what happens and what this movie really got at for me and really showcased to me was that many of us might miss out on potential friendships because we assume we don't have anything in common. You're this stereotype. You're not going to college. You're not doing this thing. I'm doing this thing. That we just miss out on finding connections of interest where we could have found those weirdos that are into the same weird shit we are a little bit earlier in life. And B, it seems like then we're not truly able to express who we are until we've survived high school, as if it's some sort of hazing in life, right? High school, well, I really think middle school is the hazing of life, but you know what I mean, that it is that rite of passage that you truly don't get to live your life until you're out of high school, and that seems false, right? If we meet people and we like them, even if it's not something that lasts forever, as Molly says, it's over, but it was perfect. We could have had a perfect year, perfect 4 years, a perfect night, a perfect month, whatever it could be, where we were able to connect and be understood and be seen and see other people and understand other people because we have things in common, and that makes us friends. So what's the point of losing those years, losing that time spent with others? We shouldn't have to wait until graduation or later in life to find these people and to have friendship. Because in the case of Amy and Molly, although their friendship is beautiful, it truly closed them off to other people and other people knowing who they were. I don't think the rest of the school knew about Amy and Molly until graduation. And so these are all things to think about in terms of this movie. I think it brings a lot. There's lots to consider with friendship, important lessons to pull out. But maybe more importantly, I want to end the episode with talking about what this means for other movies. First thing is, I just want to say I love you, Olivia Wilde, for taking on this movie, directing this movie, and being sure that this is a woman starring, written, directed, produced movie. I felt like so much was captured well for that age. Even though I'm 40, I feel like I can go back and relive those moments or feel that this is a human experience. And I felt similar ways in the movie 8th Grade. And I think I'm just going to love these movies forever because of their just uniqueness and being able to capture these experiences. But one of the questions I would have for you is, what do you think movies look like for friendship? When we think about friendship movies, what do you think of? Some of my favorite movies, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, really does focus on the friendship with Cameron and Ferris and how they can skip the entire day and make those memories. So in similar ways, they're having that last fun time together before they go out in the world. So maybe another thing is that movies only say that you can only have fun with friends until you're 18, and then after that, time to get real. And it's like, no. We can have friends forever. We can have friends all throughout our life. It's not something that should have an expiration date on it unless it's something that is toxic or problematic, or just because of circumstances, things change, because that is life. The other one is Clueless. I think that movie includes a lot. It includes school, it includes family, it includes romantic relationships, but it truly does have that focus of the friendship with Cher and her two best friends. But when I think about movies, these are the things that I think about with friendship, and I think this is why a movie like Booksmart indicates that we need to have more like this. So some of my favorite movies of focusing on high school or middle school or those sorts of things, the first thing is that people don't have friends, right? So the movie Election, starring Reese Witherspoon as Tracy Flick, she doesn't seem to have any friends. And then one of my absolute favorites, and it's not just because of the same name, but the movie Lucas from the 80s as Charlie Sheen, Winona Ryder, some other favorites. But it has Corey Haim as Lucas, and it's how he tries to build friendships in high school and trying to get in with the popular kids, which is a common theme. And so I think that's the first way we see friendships in movies, is that people just don't have friends, as if they don't exist or they're unable to have friends. The second thing is that friends are minimal, or they're a secondary tale to some love story or something else. Like, Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead. It opens with her hanging out with her friends. Then the mom's like, friends need to go. Then it's about her family and that the babysitter croaks on her own accord, and Christina Applegate's character has to figure out how to raise money and feed her brothers and sisters. And then to save her butt in the end, the friends have to come back, right? So those are some of the things that we see. 10 Things I Hate About You. In that movie, the main character, it's more about a love relationship and a relationship with her sister. And much like in Election and Lucas, she doesn't have a lot of friends. Can't Buy Me Love is dropping friends for romantic relationships. Pretty in Pink is about how the friends, how you get around the fact that one friend is in love with the other friend. So it's more about this romantic relationship. So we have no friends. We have minimal friends, or they're secondary. And then just ask any romantic comedy movie. It's pretty much whoever is the lead. They have like one token or a couple token friends that don't really play that huge of a role. The next focus is all on dark side. I think Mean Girls, I think Heathers, and although I do think that there's conflict in friendships, I do think we focus a lot of times on it just friendship being problematic and not being something that's good for us as well. And I mean, I love both of those movies, and I think they address really important topics and questions. But gosh, in Heathers, why would you want to be friends with anyone named Heather in that movie? It's awful. They're awful to each other. And, is that something people grow out of? Or is it because we don't know how to deal with gossip and rumors and other things of that nature? Then I would say a big chunk of friendship movies focus on boys, men, or sports. One of the greatest movies of all time, one of my favorites, because I do think that male friendship is seen as less than. I do love Stand By Me. When they're on this journey, on an adventure, that's something else. It's not just sports, it's an adventure like in The Goonies, The Sandlot, The Mighty Ducks, Super 8. You all have young boys. They're typically in the middle school age, and then it's about sports or an adventure or surviving something. And so we see a lot of friendship movies that focus on young boys, but maybe not later in life. And that when you think about women in movies, you have Now and Then and Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, although Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants kind of takes them away from their friendship. Those focus on younger friends, but typically for women, it focuses on older women, adult women, and sometimes it's been more of a newer or more recent focus. So Waiting to Exhale, Beaches, Bend It Like Beckham, Fried Green Tomatoes, Bridesmaids, more recently Girls Trip, Wine Country, Something Great. I love seeing all these aspects of friendship, but you can see that there are some trends that it's like for young boys, Superbad or adventure, or that friendship isn't even important. And for women, it's about their adult friendships. And what makes Booksmart extremely important is that it focuses on girls and their relationships and growing up and developing their relationships, and not in mean ways, not in perfect or nice or kind ways. The stereotypes of girls is the sugar and spice and everything nice, and then people act all shocked when they're nasty to each other. And I think not all girls are nasty to each other. Not all boys get along on the basketball court. Like, we have to think about friendship in a more complete image and different aspects of life, different age of life, different walks of life. And I think that Booksmart fills a void, and I sure hope that Olivia Wilde will continue focusing on friendship, because simply put, we just don't focus enough on it. It's a neglected relationship, but so important. So many lessons to be learned, so much of life that we live that we don't get to witness. And that's what we need in our life. We need to witness friendship, and we need to witness all aspects of friendship. And much love to Booksmart for making that happen. So this week, we're going to give a shout out to the Boozy Movies podcast. I love Hannah and Julia, and they do this every episode where they talk about movies, and I don't always do that. So this is me hoping to be a little bit of thoughtful and making important points. I'm not been having booze, but a little shout out to their podcast. And then also thinking about friendship and filling the void. I need your tales, your stories, your experiences for slumber parties, for secrets, for roommates, for loneliness, and anything else to do with friendship, because I have so many ideas and so many things I'd like to cover on this podcast, because we need to talk about these things. We need to celebrate friendship. We need to talk about the things that make friendships difficult, and we need to grow through our friendships. And the only way we can do that is by seeing it in the movies, talking about it in school, learning about it in life, and maybe talking about it here. So until next time, friends, see Booksmart with your friends, or see it and call your first love friend and tell them how much they mean to you. Because without our friends, who would we be? Thanks for listening to Best Forevers. If you like what you hear, be sure to subscribe, rate, review, and of course, share with a friend. Please be sure to follow Best Forevers on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Best Forevers Pod, and I'm at Dr. Alysa Lucas on Twitter. You can always find the podcast webpage for more information at bestforeverspod.com, and share your stories of friendship by emailing me at bestforeverspod@gmail.com. And if you'd like to support the movement to love on our friends more, check out the podcast on patreon.com/bestforeverspod. Now, friends, check out this recommended podcast that you must get in your ear holes immediately.